Imagine waking up to a headline claiming that Russia sold the North Pole to the United States. It sounds wild, right? A deal involving ice, polar bears, and a chunk of the planet everyone thought belonged to no one. But here's the thing. This rumor didn't come from any official announcement, treaty, or diplomatic leak. It came from confusion, mixed facts, and the internet's love for surprising stories. So today, let's clear up the mystery behind this viral idea and uncover the real story about the North Pole. Who controls it, who wants it, and why anyone would even care. First, let's get one thing straight. The North Pole has never been bought, sold, traded, rented, or handed over from Russia to the United States. In fact, the North Pole isn't even a solid piece of land. It's an ocean, frozen on the surface, deep and dark underneath. And under international law, it doesn't legally belong to any single country. But if no one owns it, then why do people think Russia and the United States are fighting over it? The answer takes us back to the early 2000s, when climate change began opening new sea routes in the Arctic. Ice that had been frozen for thousands of years started thinning. Suddenly, the Arctic became a potential jackpot for shipping, oil, gas, and natural resources. And countries around the Arctic, Russia, the US, Canada, Denmark through Greenland and Norway, started filing science-based claims to extend their economic zones. This is where Russia enters the spotlight. In 2007, a Russian expedition literally placed a titanium flag on the seabed under the North Pole. The world reacted instantly. Some people thought Russia was claiming ownership of the entire pole. Others assumed this meant they could later negotiate territory deals, including with the United States. That event is a big reason the sold the North Pole myth spread years later. But here's the truth. Planting a flag underwater was symbolic. It didn't change anything legally. Even Russia said it was a statement of capability, not an act of ownership. So what was actually happening behind the scenes? Countries were submitting documents to the United Nations to prove whether the underwater ridges in the Arctic were extensions of their continental shelves. If approved, they would gain rights to resources in those specific areas, but not the North Pole itself. The United States, meanwhile, focused on its own Arctic territory tied to Alaska. America didn't attempt to buy the North Pole. It simply strengthened scientific research, defense presence, and energy exploration in the North. But because Russia and the US are major global powers, the public often imagines dramatic confrontations and sometimes even imaginary deals. And that leads to the viral story we're talking about. A mix of misunderstandings, social media exaggeration, and the idea that governments secretly negotiate massive land transfers behind closed doors. It makes for a great headline, but not for an accurate story. In reality, Arctic politics revolve around science, law, diplomacy, and environmental concerns, not real estate transactions. The nations involved follow processes guided by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Everything is slow, technical, and heavily monitored. So the next time you hear the claim that Russia sold the North Pole to the United States, remember this: no one can sell what no one truly owns. The North Pole remains an international region covered in shifting ice and surrounded by countries that want access but must play by global rules. What makes the Arctic fascinating isn't a fake secret deal. It's the real-world competition for resources, the changing climate, and the future of a part of Earth most people will never visit, but everyone depends on. And that's the real story.